It's pretty simple for the Panthers. Either they take care of business on their own on Saturday or they leave it up to the Falcons. I'll give you my three keys to how they can clinch the division right here on Locked On Panthers.
You are Locked On Panthers, your daily Carolina Panthers podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome into another edition of the Locked On Panthers podcast, the part of the Locked On Podcast Network. I'm your host, as always, Julian Council, talking Carolina Panthers with you every Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and yes, of course, Friday, your team every day. That's our motto here on the Locked On Podcast Network. Thanks for watching the show right here on YouTube and listening wherever you listen to your favorite podcast. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Before tip-off, check out the FanDuel app and see what's dropping during NBA Happy Hour every Friday from 6 to 7:30 p.m. Eastern Time. It all comes down to Week 18 in the NFC South, as either the Carolina Panthers or the Tampa Bay Buccaneers will represent the division and be the 4th seed in the NFC side of the NFL playoffs here in 2026. It's this simple. Either the Panthers win or tie on Saturday down in Tampa Bay, or if they lose, the Atlanta Falcons must win. A tie does Carolina no good on Sunday at home against New Orleans. Any other result will mean the Panthers will miss out on the playoffs, and they'll be left wondering, what if back in Week 15, when they got that gift on that Thursday night, when Atlanta went down to Tampa and won, what if Carolina would have just won that game against New Orleans and came back the next week and did what they did, and that is beat the Tampa Bay Buccaneers? The last 2 weeks would have been absolutely nothing at all. They would have been locked in to the 4th seed. What if they had taken advantage of that opportunity? What if on Sunday, J.C. Horn would have intercepted Sam Darnold after DJ Wonnum was able to tip that ball in the first play of the game for the Seahawks offense? And if Carolina had punted in from there, what happens then? Sam looked shaky all game long, had the strip sack. He had the interception there in the third quarter. And speaking of that interception, what if after that, Joe Barber didn't fumble? And what if Carolina went down the field and scored a touchdown there? What if J.C. Horn on 3rd and 20 didn't get his hands too high and grab JSN's face mask? What if all of those things had gone the other way? Are we even having this conversation? That is where the Panthers will be left after Saturday if they are unable to win that game or tie, and on Sunday if Atlanta is not able to clean up their mess for them and have the Panthers win a 3-way 8-9 tie between the Panthers, the Bucs, and the Atlanta Falcons. Those are the questions that we'll be asking ourselves, and I'm sure the coaching staff, the players, and everyone over there on 800 South Mint Street in Uptown Charlotte will be asking themselves if things do not go their way this weekend. We'll talk more about those stakes later on. Robert Hunt has been on IR since the beginning of Week 3. Could he potentially come back for this game on Saturday? Dave Canales on Friday or Thursday, rather, was not all that convinced it's going to happen, but we'll wait and see if that is the case. Talk also about some of the other injuries the Panthers are dealing with heading into this game in Week 18. But let's start off this Friday, as we started off every single Friday throughout the regular season, aside from, well, that one Friday the Panthers didn't have a game, and that's by me giving you my 3 keys to victory for the Panthers and their upcoming matchup. This time coming on a Saturday, 4:30 p.m. Eastern Time, in prime time on ABC against Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Key number 1, the Panthers have to get off the field on 3rd down. This has been an issue all season long, but really you've seen it play out the last couple of weeks. Go back to that Week 15 matchup against the Saints. How many times did we watch New Orleans, watch Tyler Shuck, find guys like Devon Vele, find Chris Olave, and the rest of the no-names, and that's not a lot, but the rest of the no-names in that Saints receiving core on 3rd and longs? Far too many times. And that was something that Dave Canales even mentioned to Sarah Kustok on a Fox broadcast during halftime. We've got to get off the field on 3rd down. Opening 3rd down they faced during the second half defensively, they gave a 3rd and long. That was a problem Week 15. It was a problem back in Week 16 where Tampa was 8 of 14 on 3rd down, 3 of 7 in the first half, then 5 of 7 in the second half. 4 of those 5 conversions happened on the opening drive of the 3rd quarter, where they took up a ton of time and scored a touchdown. After that, the Panthers got off the field on third down, but you have to be so much better on third down than they have been. They were not great on third down on Sunday in the loss against Seattle in that opening drive. Even after JC dropped that pick and they got the second down, they got the third down, the stadium was rocking. It was the loudest I'd heard a stadium all season long at the beginning of the game, and they could not get off the field in that situation. They've got to be able to do that on Saturday if they want to win this game. Tampa so far this season is 13th in the NFL on third down, converting 40.4% of their third downs. Carolina is second to last, only ahead of the Las Vegas Raiders, allowing opponents to convert 46.7% of their third downs. Seattle did far better than that on Sunday. Tampa did better than that back in week 16. So did New Orleans back in week 15. They've got to get off the field on third down if they want to be in position to win this game on Saturday. Number 2. Dave Canales always talks about trying to capture a certain brand of football here in Carolina. And one of the things they want to capture is the running game. Well, they haven't really been doing that over the last 7 games, the last second half of the season. So what they need to do on Saturday is recapture the run game. Go back to the first half of the season. Weeks 1 through 9, the Panthers were 3rd in the NFL in rushing yardage. They were 10th in yards per attempt. They were 6th in EPA per rush. They were 8th in rushing success rate. Now look at that and compare it to weeks 10 through 17, the second half of the season. The Panthers are tied for 27th in rushing yardage. They're 26th in yards per attempt. They're 26th in EPA per rush. They're 29th in rushing success rate. They went from being a top 10 rushing offense to a bottom 10, really bottom 6 or 5 rushing offense in the league in the second half, which really makes it all that more impressive that they're even in this position where if they win or tie or get help on Sunday, they're going to the playoffs. This has not been a great offense. We saw that play out against the best defense that they have seen and will see this season in Seattle on Sunday in Uptown Charlotte. If they cannot run the ball, Bryce, he's shown the ability at points of times, like in Atlanta, when he threw 448 yards, that he can win those games. But in all likelihood, they're going to struggle offensively if they cannot find something in the run game, in particular from their backs. And looking at the running backs over the last 7 games, only in one of those games have they combined for 100-plus yards on the ground. That was the win against the Rams prior to the bye week. The other 6, they have failed to combine for over 100 yards. And you look at all of these games as well, Rico Dowdle, he has not been able to go over 60-plus yards rushing in these games. Go back to weeks 3 through 9 for the Panthers running backs. They went over 100 yards every single week. The Panthers were 5-2 during that stretch, while they're 3-4 during this latest stretch, where, again, only against the Rams did Rico, did Chuba, did Trevor, and the rest of the backs combine for over 100 yards on the ground. And that even includes the loss against the Saints and the loss against Seattle, where had they won those, they would have been in prime position to either have won the division the next week or on Sunday could have clinched it right there outright at home. Now, overall, Rico has had a really good season. He's been excellent this year. He's rushed for over 1,000 yards in back-to-back seasons. He's earned $1.75 million in incentives and is closing in on another 1.25, depending on what happens on Saturday. All he needs is 7 yards, just total, whether it's through the air or on the ground, and a touchdown, and he gets $1.25 million. So he has been great for this team this season. And again, I mentioned back when they were playing early in the year, they were not in a good spot, sitting at 1-3. He saved them against Miami. He saved them against Dallas. He was great against the Packers as well. He really saved this offense when they were having a ton of issues in the passing game, and Chuba Hubbard was out, and there was a lot of questions about where this season was going to go. They need him to be their closer. He's been dealing with a toe injury. He did not practice during a walkthrough earlier this week, but he's been full participant the rest of the week. He's got to be their guy. He's good to go on Saturday. He's got to be someone who can close out this division for them, as he was that for them in the middle part of the season. He's been great all year long. I know recently the numbers have not been all that good, but in totality, he has been everything that you've wanted and really more when they signed him back in March. So can he give them one more premium effort in this regular season and go down there and help them recapture the run game on Saturday against Tampa? And in number 3, I said this back before this stretch that we would find out whether Bryce Young truly could be the guy for Carolina. If the Panthers made the playoffs, it would be largely because Bryce rose to the occasion. If they didn't, it would be because Bryce was a detriment to the team's success, and they'd have to think long and hard, not only about the fifth-year option, but about whether they want to extend him in the future. Not every game this season, last season, and in his first year need to be a referendum on Bryce Young, whether he's franchise quarterback in Carolina. This game, though, it needs to be. These are the games that you go out there and you give up Christian McCaffrey, you give up DJ Moore and all those first-round picks in order to get a quarterback who can win you these games. This is why David Tepper and Nicole Tepper fell in love with Bryce Young in Tuscaloosa during that dinner, for him to win these kind of games and to get the Panthers into the playoffs for the first time in 8 years and win the division title for the first time in a decade. These are the moments that he has to live up to the billing. So number 3, Bryce Young must rise to the occasion. You look at the last couple of weeks, Bryce honestly had been playing well up until this past Sunday. That 3-week stretch against the Rams, the Saints, and the Bucks, 2 wins and a loss, was the best stretch of his career, according to EPA per dropback. The best stretch of his career. The other one was last year against Kansas City, Tampa, and Philadelphia right after the bye week, after they came back from Germany, and Bryce was riding high and looking like, okay, he's back on track to be the starting quarterback, to be the franchise quarterback in Carolina. He followed up that stretch against the Rams, Saints, and the Bucks from the last couple of weeks with one of the worst games, not only of his season, but of his career. You look at it, he had a negative 0.54 EPA per dropback. That's the second worst of his career, behind week 2 last year against the Chargers in that loss, where he then was benched the next day, as Dave Canales realized it was an untenable situation for him to maintain Bryce Young as starting quarterback and keep the locker room believing that they could achieve all the goals they set out to achieve that season. So Bryce has got to find a way to rise to the level he played at against the Rams and against the Bucks and even against the Saints, against the Falcons. Get back to being that Bryce Young, and they have a great chance to win this game on Saturday. Be the Bryce Young that we saw last week, that we saw early on in the season against Jacksonville in the first half against Arizona, the one we saw in New England, the one we saw in all those losses, then, well, yeah, you're going to ask hard questions about whether this guy can truly be your franchise quarterback. I know plenty of people feel like, no, that's not going to be the case. I think he's a starter next year no matter what happens on Saturday. But as far as wanting to give the 5th-year option, go out there, lay an egg. Is that somebody you want to guarantee millions to for 2027 as well? I wouldn't be so sure, depending on how things play out. So Bryce Young needs to rise to the occasion. The Panthers got to recapture the run game, and they need to get out the field on 3rd down. Those are my 3 keys for the Panthers to winning the NFC South on Saturday down in Tampa Bay. They're going to be shorthanded. Linebacker health has been a question over the last second half of the season. Rob Hunt, David Moore could be coming off of IR. Turk Wharton looks like he's going to be back. We'll talk about all that here in just a moment on Locked on Panthers. Nobody knows your money goals better than you. Robinhood puts you in control of your money with tools that work as hard as you do. Locking in on every opening, beating your PR, beating it again. Channel that drive into your money. Robinhood puts you in control of your money. Trade stocks and ETFs, options, futures, and crypto all on one platform. You can now build and execute your own trades from a desktop with Robinhood Legends advanced tools, or take advantage of the new Robinhood strategies with a tailored portfolio managed by a team of experts. You expect more from yourself, expect more from your money. Get started today at Robinhood.com/yourmoney. Again, that's Robinhood.com/yourmoney, your money, your move. Taking a look at the Week 18 injury report. Now, I'm recording this on Friday afternoon. It's 1:22 p.m. Eastern time as I'm recording this. Typically around 4 o'clock is when we get an update from the Panthers PR about what moves Panthers have made the day before game day. So typically on Saturdays around 4 is when we see who is going to be elevated from the practice squad, who they're going to activate from IR if necessary, and all of that. So Rob Hunt, David Moore, you'll find out that information either watching or listening to this podcast, or you'll see it before you watch or listen to the show. So that's coming out later on. I did not want to wait until like 5 o'clock to get the show out to you. Could have done that, but decided not to do that because there's some other things we can talk about without having the information that's going to come out later on here on Friday afternoon. But linebacker health, that is certainly, I think, the biggest question mark heading into this game on Saturday between the Panthers and the Bucs. Trevor Wallace placed on IR last week, had shoulder surgery. We'll see him next year. Hopefully he's good to go once the voluntary portion of the offseason begins. He's out and able to get in the locker room and be at the weight room and all that. So we'll see how that plays out with Trevin, the projected starter again next year at linebacker. Claude Sherlis, who filled in for Trevin last week, he's out this week. Been dealing with a calf/ankle injury. He will not play this game. We'll find out what his status will be next week, provided that they are able to win the division and go to the playoffs. But right now, they do not have Claude Sherlis for this game on Saturday. Chris Barnes, he's also dealing with a back injury. He's had to step in at points of times this season as a starter and just a fill-in when injuries have happened at linebacker. He's questionable for this game. It sounds like he's going to play, but Dave did say if he's not able to go, which would then mean that it would be Bam Martin-Scott, the undrafted free agent rookie out of South Carolina, had to step in there last week in that game against Seattle on Sunday. It would be Bam Martin-Scott starting in place of the injured Chris Barnes, who was in place for the injured Claude Sherlis, who was in place for the injured Trevin Wallace. So you would be down to your fourth option at inside linebacker next Christian Roseboom in a massive game on Saturday rather. Obviously not ideal, but that's where you are in week 18 in a long season where it's a battle of attrition, and that is played out at linebacker. And that's a spot looking to the offseason. They need to find better top end talent at starter, but also they need to find some increased depth as looking even going into the season. Clearly there was going to be questions there as Josie Jewell was surprisingly waived right before training camp due to the concussion issues he was dealing with. No update on whatever happened with him because there was talk that he could maybe come back. At least that's what they said back at the end of July. And that was 6 months ago. So that was a long time ago. We'll see how it plays out for them, but looking like it's going to be Christian Roseboom and Chris Barnes starting at inside linebacker. Isaiah Simmons, by the way, for folks wondering, what about Isaiah Simmons? Could he be an option? Dave Canales said earlier this week that they've been repping him as a safety, not a linebacker. It's possible because he has played linebacker in the NFL, back in college at Clemson, where he's a hybrid kind of player. It's possible if needed that they'll go to him, and that would be then their fifth option, maybe their sixth option at that point in time. But yeah, they want to go with Chris Barnes and with Christian Roseboom, with then Bam Martin-Scott being their third guy at linebacker on Saturday against Tampa. Rob Hunt, David Moore, will they come off of IR again? We'll find out about that around 4 o'clock here on Friday afternoon. Right now, it sounds more like David Moore would be the better option to come off just based off of where he's at. Dave said on Thursday, Dave Canales said that David Moore had a fantastic week of practice, but they just need to see how they can work out the numbers roster-wise. They're going to have to waive somebody if they bring him up, and understand that they've just put JT Sanders on IR, so they don't want to waive the tight end they just brought in. They did claim a safety, D'Anthony Bell. They just brought him. Well, actually, that's the guy they brought in off of waivers. So they I don't know if they want to waive that safety they just brought in. And they may if they feel like Dave Moore is the best thing for them for this game on Saturday. But then you got to figure out, too, if David Moore is active, then what do you do with your 5 wide receivers? Who's inactive? Is Jimmy Horn not getting a jersey on Saturday? Is Bryson Tremaine not getting a jersey on Saturday? And Tremaine's been a guy that they've utilized all season long. Are you going to now sit him on the bench in the most important game of the season? We'll see. That's something they got to figure out, not just who they're going to waive, but also who they want to sit on Saturday in this game. Rob Hunt, Dave said on Thursday, it's just going to depend on how he bounces back on Friday during their final walkthrough before hopping on the plane and going to Tampa. We'll find out again later on today what the situation is there. Did not sound like Rob will be good to go in this game. It's still crazy, even sitting at this point in time, that this guy tore his bicep back in September. We're sitting here on the 2nd of January, and he potentially be playing in a game tomorrow. That just does not typically happen for these guys who have biceps tears. So would be cool if he's able to go, but does not feel like that's going to be the case. We'll see again later on here on Friday if that does happen. Turk Wharton, hamstring. He's missed the last couple of games after tripping over a teammate during walkthrough. Just awful situation. He's missed the last 3 games. Bobby Brown III's had to step in. He's played fairly well in his spot, but Turk He's questionable, but was full participant all week long at practice, so he should be good to go as well on Saturday in this game. That's where things stand as far as the injury report for Carolina heading in this Week 18 matchup down in Tampa. The stakes, they have never been higher for the Panthers this season than they are this weekend. Can they take care of their own business? We'll talk about that here in just a moment on Locked On Panthers. NFL Sundays move fast, one big play, and suddenly everything feels different. That's what makes live betting with FanDuel so exciting. You're not just watching the game, you're reacting to it in real time. With FanDuel, you can place bets as the action unfolds, every drive, every momentum swing, every highlight moment. Live betting is best when the game starts to shift. The receiver gets hot, a defense tightens up, or the momentum flips after a turnover. FanDuel lets you jump into the moment, live spreads and money lines just instantly. Player props update as guys heat up. You can bet next touchdown scores, trap results, totals, and more. It keeps you locked into every snap, every drive, every possibility. So if you want to be right in the middle of the action this season, visit FanDuel.com and place your NFL live bets all season long. FanDuel, the game moves fast, and so can you. We all know the stakes, y'all. It's as simple as this. The Panthers either win or tie on Saturday, or they need the Falcons to win on Sunday. And oh boy, I've already said it. I was a little frustrated with the Rams on Monday night. I wanted this to be over on Saturday. I wanted it to be winner take all. I wanted the stakes to be that high for the Panthers and for the Bucs. The Panthers could lose this game, and obviously people would be very upset, very frustrated. But it would just be like what happened against New Orleans. Okay, you lost. It sucks. It's disappointing, but you can still just take care of business against Tampa. And then when they lost against Seattle, it's like, okay, well, you understood the Tampa game was the one that was going to probably matter more anyways. It turned out that Miami won. But still, there was still another option, which was beating Tampa. And then once you saw the Rams win on Monday, you knew, or lose on Monday, then you knew it was like, okay, well, even if they don't beat the Bucs, it's still there. So the door has been left ajar for weeks on end for the Panthers at this point in time. And very rarely do you see a team get as many second chances as this team has gotten. You could look at after losing the Saints, you got a second chance. After losing to the Seahawks, you got another chance. And if they lose on Saturday, you're going to get another chance as well. You're going to get 5 freaking chances. It feels like 4 or 5 to clinch the division. And hopefully it doesn't come down to that. It is a good thing for this team that they still have a possibility of getting in. If they end up losing on Saturday afternoon, do they deserve to be in the playoffs if that happens? I don't know if really deserved matters. You play 17 games, and if you end up being 8-9, it's a 3-way tie, and you get in because you swept Atlanta and you split with Tampa. You won the games that mattered the most at the end of the day. So what does deserve have to do with anything? They would have earned it. Those are the rules that were set out when the NFL schedule came out, and long before that, those are the rules of how the playoffs will be decided in this division. If it came down to 3 teams that were 8-9, they're going to look at their records together, and whoever had the best one was going to go out there and represent the division as the champion. Those are the rules. I don't think I'm going to hear, and hopefully we don't hear a lot of talk about, oh, they got to change the playoffs to only the top 7 teams in each conference and all that, and complaining about the formula. This is what it is. And if Carolina gets in via the back door because they lose on Saturday and Atlanta wins on Sunday, and because they beat the Falcons back in week 14, whenever it was, and they beat them back in week 3, and those are the 2 games that mattered the most for them at the end of the season, then so be it. You take it, you smile, you be happy that this team would have made the playoffs, even if they truly would have tried their hardest not to make them, because every game in this NFL season has to matter, and it would have mattered that they beat Atlanta in those 2 games early on this year. Now, there are a couple outcomes that are very interesting when looking at the NFC South this weekend. If Carolina, let's focus on Carolina first. If Carolina wins, no matter what happens on Sunday, Tampa's going to finish in 3rd place. So if Carolina wins and New Orleans wins, the Saints will finish in 2nd place, which is actually pretty remarkable considering what we all thought that team was going to be. And the fact they went to a rookie in Tyler Shuck, who it feels like if he is able to lead the Saints to a 5th straight victory on Sunday down in Atlanta, that he is going to take away the offensive rookie of the year from Tedero McMillan, unless T-Mac is able to just have like a crazy performance on Saturday and lead the Panthers to a win. I think the voters are going to lean towards Shock, a quarterback and a guy who is presenting himself to look as if he is going to be the future down there in New Orleans. So if Carolina and New Orleans wins, it will be the Panthers, the Saints, the Bucs, and the Falcons in that order in the NFC South. So while Sunday may mean a lot as far as who's going to win a division, it's also going to mean a lot as far as draft position for some of these teams as well, in particular for Atlanta and for New Orleans. If Carolina and Atlanta win, it'll be Carolina in first place, Atlanta in second, Tampa in third, New Orleans in fourth. If Tampa and New Orleans are able to win, it will be the Bucs in first place, Carolina in second, New Orleans in third, and Atlanta in fourth. If Tampa and Atlanta win, it will be Carolina winning division, of course, Tampa in second, and then Atlanta in third, and New Orleans in fourth. So the only way the Bucs can finish in second place is it with a win. If they lose, they're going to be in third place, which genuinely, again, is just crazy how they have just completely fallen apart where they could end up being third place team. The Falcons, with a loss, will be in last place. With the win, could be as high as second place if Carolina wins, or they could be in third place. So a ton of variables where you look at Carolina, they can only be either in first place or second place. Tampa, they could be in first, second, or third. New Orleans could be in second, third, or fourth. Same thing with Atlanta, second, third, or fourth. So totally different outcomes depending on how things play out on Sunday. And of course, first on Saturday between Carolina and Tampa Bay. That's going to wrap up this edition of the Locked On Panthers podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, hosted by yours truly, Julian Council. Again, y'all, subscribe or follow the show free over on YouTube or wherever you listen to your favorite podcast. And be sure to listen to me on Saturday, as I'll be live after the game. Whether the Carolina Panthers win or lose, will be live, and then depending on how things play out, maybe live again on Sunday following the Saints and Falcons game. But be sure to check me out on Twitter and over on YouTube, on Twitter and over on Blue Sky at Julian Council. But in the meantime, be safe, be happy, be whole. As always, keep pounding, and I'll talk to y'all on Saturday, and hopefully I want to talk to you on Sunday as well.